How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, when I was showing that series of videos, all that drama that was going on in LA, on a few occasions, I kept hearing people talk about the Brady list. And I said, I never heard of that. So I said, I got to research this. So last week I was researching about the Brady list. Basically, a group of bad cops. And you see here, Sheriff tries to expose a list of 300 bad cops. Courts and union promptly block him. And I was like, wow. And this is deep because I got 2 videos to show the royal family, and some may know about this. But when I don't know about something, I know somebody else may not know either. So let's see, let's get into this. So, what are Brady cops? Police officers who have been dishonest are sometimes referred to as Brady cops. Because of the Brady ruling, prosecutors are required to notify defendants and their attorneys whenever a law enforcement officer involved in their case have sustained a record of knowingly lying in an official capacity. Interesting. Let's see what I got here. So I just been reading. It's a lot out there. Y'all know how it is when y'all researching. It's a lot, and you have to just kind of just nail down stuff. And they don't necessarily use the name Brady. All kind of different names will pop up, but you'll mainly hear Brady because that was the first one. So DA keeps secret list of bad cops. Brady index and identifies untrustworthy witnesses for prosecutors, but not the public. And I found out when I was doing my research, my royal family, if law enforcement is involved and the defendant, the lawyer who's doing the defending, may need some information on a cop who's possibly on the list, it's not unusual for the prosecutor to get convenient amnesia and hide it to the best of their ability and stuff. So they have a website that somewhat works, and this is done on purpose, bradycops.org. And what I found here is in 1963, the United States Supreme Court made a landmark decision in Brady versus Maryland. The decision's main focus was regarding exculpatory evidence in criminal prosecutions. Exculpatory evidence is evidence that tends to be favorable to the criminal defendant. I'm not going to read it all because it's all up in here, my royal family. Y'all can read this at your leisure. I will go back to this. We got 2 videos to listen to that I feel like it is absolutely necessary. The first video is a little over 9 minutes. And let's see, what do I have here before I read it? Brady lists are supposed to help ensure the justice is obtained by keeping tabs on dishonest police employees so that their questionable integrity doesn't taint what they call the legal land proceeding. But like all aspects of the injustice system which suffers, oh yes, we already know they gonna do everything they can to cover they ass. Point blank. I don't even have to read the shit. Just, you put something out there and then they find a way to counteract it. So let's just get into it. I know this stuff ain't surprising, But that's one of these videos, my royal family. One of them juicy ass videos that I would ask y'all to please pass around so we can get this information out.
In 1963, the murder conviction of John Brady was overturned by the United States Supreme Court, which ruled that prosecutors had not disclosed all known facts pertinent to the case, specifically that Brady didn't commit murder. Prosecutors, eager to get yet another conviction, had decided not to share with Brady and his lawyers a letter written by another man who took sole responsibility for the act. Since then, the Brady rule has required prosecutors to pass along material related to guilt or to punishment, known as exculpatory evidence, to defendants before a plea is entered. Failure to do so is said to be a violation of due process. Less than a decade later, another case, Giglio v. U.S., strengthened the Brady rule by mandating that defendants and their lawyers had to be told about information that cast doubt on the credibility of government witnesses involved in the case. Police employees, being political actors who have questionable integrity, are supposed to be kept on a Brady list. Qualifications for inclusion include lying under oath, what's known as testifying, or other misdeeds done when in an official capacity, which in plain English means that when a person has on a police costume. So where are those Brady lists? They're certainly not readily available on the website of your local cop shop or district attorney's office. The simple truth is that there is no set process on how this information is to be shared, thus the norm is censorship on behalf of those who keep those lists. And even though prosecutors are tasked with informing the defendant that a police employee set to testify is indeed included on the Brady list, that doesn't always happen. It's ultimately contingent on the decision reached by a handful of senior prosecutors. Regardless of the lip service given to justice and to transparency, the injustice system and its actors rest firmly on double standards and censorship. As said Mary Ellen Rumand, a Washington-based lawyer, although the case is 50 years old, how prosecutors and police are complying with Brady in regard to dishonesty and police officers is in its infancy. In LA, the process to comply with the Brady list was created only after a massive police scandal. Dozens and dozens of police employees active with the Rampart crash unit, planting evidence, testifying, dealing drugs, beatings and shootings, and bank robbery, which cost area taxpayers 125 million Federal Reserve notes for settlements. Within 5 years, that Brady list process had been adopted by a handful of other police outfits in Southern California. In San Diego, Jeff McDonald of the San Diego Union Tribune solicited the Brady list from the local attorney. Since the DA claims to be dedicated to the pursuit of truth and justice and to strive for open and forthright communication, one would think that the request would be quickly granted, right? Wrong. The response received said that any information that may lead to the identification of the officers is confidential. As opined Margaret Dooley Samuli from the San Diego ACLU, if officers are unreliable in court, are they reliable in our communities? This default to protect the identities of police employees who have questionable integrity is not surprising. After all, we're talking about an institution that does not have to respond to market signals. All police employees and their outfits rely on a claimed legitimate right to extort you to then protect you. And prosecutors, who are supposed to maintain the Brady lists, tend to rely on donations and support from police unions to get elected. Many, therefore, are hesitant to rock the boat and call into question hundreds or thousands of convictions that relied on testimony given from someone known to lie. Such is the norm when justice is said to be provided by a coercive monopoly. That institution and its actors are inherently unaccountable. Yet Richard Bradley, the president of the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association, had the audacity to claim that in 27 years on the Boston force, he never encountered the practice of testifying. Sure, honesty among police employees in legal land is not absolute. Anyone truthful, including some police employees, readily acknowledges that fact. Joseph D. McNamara, when head of the San Jose police outfit, stated, "As someone who spent 35 years wearing a police uniform, I've come to believe that hundreds of thousands of law enforcement officers commit felony perjury every year testifying about drug arrests. In fact, during the Legal Land venture Adamo Freeman and I had a few years ago in Greenfield, Mass., it was a lie told by a police employee on the stand that one juror cited as the reason he determined that Adamo and I were not guilty. That police employee, Todd M. Dodge, had been asked by Adamo if he'd ever broken the law. Dodge replied no. There exists thousands of pages of legalese conflated to be law, much of which is contradictory. The average person violates a handful of felonies each day, and Dodge claims he's never broken a law? Dodge should be included on the Brady list, and maybe he already is, but good luck finding out that information. As Richard Lisco, a Baltimore police employee, noted in Police Chief magazine, even though the Brady decision is nearly 50 years old, law enforcement agencies across the country are reluctant, if not defiant, to disclose potentially damaging information about police officers within their ranks. Earlier this week, I called the Attorney General's office for Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New York. For the most part, that communication was fruitless. Despite the passage of almost a week, I've yet to hear back from anybody about how the Brady lists could be obtained. Even the one time I was told that I could file a FOIA request, that was quickly followed up with a statement that that FOIA request would likely not be fulfilled. Had others experienced more success? I scoured the web and found only a handful of examples when Brady lists that were sought were provided. In Florida, the Brady list was provided to the staff of the Sun-Sentinel earlier this year, which listed police employees convicted of crimes, those under criminal investigation, and those being investigated for discharging their firearms. In 2010, the writers of the Phoenix New-Times obtained the Brady list for Maricopa County, which listed hundreds of police employees, including Jeffrey Hines, then the head of the Phoenix Police Outfit's Internal Affairs Department, who now teaches about police management at nearby Arizona State University. In the Shire, where I now reside, the Brady list is referred to as the Lori list. In 2013, Elizabeth Dinan of the Portsmouth Herald and Seacoast Media Group filed a right-to-know requests, New Hampshire's version of the FOIA, with each county's head prosecutor to obtain the Lori lists. Though much of the information received was redacted, it was learned that more than 60 police employees were included. Said Dinan, the process tracking them is so secretive it is virtually impossible to identify them or even say for sure exactly how many there are. Thanks to a submission made to Coplock, the identities of a few of those police employees are known. Matthew Joega, Michael Buckley, and Jonathan Duchney, who all partook in the unjust beating of Chris Meklovich, a name that may be familiar to you if you're aware of the Chalking 8 incident. That trio recently attempted to get their names removed from the Lori list, but their request was denied. So, with the lack of rigor surrounding Brady lists, and the less than willing disposition of prosecutors to share them, why was it thought worthwhile to address this topic? Because it acts as yet another data point to underscore the failure of a centralized coercive monopoly to provide safety or accountability or any such idealistic goal. If a police employee is known to be of such questionable character, shouldn't that information be made public? Would you choose to hire known liars and predators to protect you? Consider Anthony Aravelos, who, despite being named in a dozen lawsuits that cost area taxpayers millions of Federal Reserve notes, was still employed as a San Diego police employee when he sexually molested a woman in the bathroom of a 7-Eleven. And just a couple hours to the north, Vince Mader, who worked for the Fullerton Police, the same outfit where the killers of Kelly Thomas were employed, whose inclusion on the Brady list wasn't made public until he was quietly dismissed after he destroyed crucial evidence. His department issued audio recorder and the chip that had captured his exchanges with Dean Gochiner, who was shortly afterwards said to have committed suicide in his cage. Would you choose to hire such a person of disrepute? That's what this conversation is ultimately about, choice. Today, with the failed injustice system, there is no choice, there is no accountability, and there never will be, as that institution is based on a double standard that some people have the right to extort others. It's been over 50 years since the Brady list was kicked off. It's failed to curtail the very real and very negative actions done by dishonest police employees. If you know of a dishonest police employee, let others know. And that includes you too, current police employees. Your silence is acceptance. To bring about real change, shed any vestiges of legitimacy you yourself grant to that corrupt institution and to the bankrupt idea that positions some as rulers and others as ruled.
Well, that is an excellent video. And I was thinking that the Brady list is older than me. I was born in 65. And again, let's go back over here. 1963. So what, 55 years ago? And Also, what I was thinking as I was doing my research was that what was I listening to? That they're saying that, which we already know, even having cameras on the police is fruitless because they can manipulate that too as well. So that doesn't even work either. And so while I was doing my research, it's amazing how Yah will literally put things right in your lap. So the reason why I brought up about being being useless as far as the cams and how they find ways to get around things and manipulate things, as I was doing my research, they actually have seminars. They actually have seminars where they send the top, unquote, top cops, or probably they send all of them, how to get around that list and all of that. And this, what you're going to hear, is an attorney speak. And if they get their ass possibly on this list, and remember, this list does not necessarily have to be called Brady, but that's where it started. I want y'all to listen real close. They even have a fund where they don't even have to pay for their legal shit. They even got that put away, which is not surprising. So they got a way around shit. And I was also thinking the ones that do get themselves in trouble, all they got to do is just go somewhere else, and then they not on the Brady list, or the unquote fake ass shit list. So this video is a little over 6 minutes, and very, very necessary how they try to counteract shit. Oh yes, I make sure I do my due diligence for the royal family. Ain't gonna get around me. No way.
Today's topic is the Brady List, sometimes called the Law Enforcement Integrity Database. ASCOPS received a number of questions about the Brady List and how it impacts officers' careers. So we want to provide a basic overview and answer the most common questions. This video is part of Law Enforcement Lessons, an online resource providing 5-minute videos that will help you understand legal issues facing police officers. I'm Steve Serbalik. I'm a lawyer who regularly represents police officers in the state of Arizona, and I'm a panel attorney for ASCOPS. This video will cover what the Brady List is, what it is not, and what to do if you find out that you're on the Brady List or if you're being considered for placement on the list. Please note that this is a general summary and not legal advice, so please consult with your lawyer and your union representative to talk about your specific circumstance. Our goal for this video is to provide you a basic understanding of the Brady List process and how it may impact your career. But the most important thing for you to know is, if you find yourself in trouble at work or worried about the Brady List, please contact a representative as soon as possible. Experienced representatives can help you navigate this complicated topic, but only if you ask for help. The 5th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution contain what's called a due process clause. Specifically, they guarantee that no person may be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The term Brady List comes from a United States Supreme Court case from 1963 that interpreted these rights. Courts interpret due process to include the right of a criminal defendant who's obviously facing the potential of losing life or liberty, with mandatory disclosure about witnesses that may testify against them in a criminal trial. This means if a prosecutor knows that a witness has integrity issues, possible biases, or a criminal history, the prosecutor must disclose that information to the criminal defendant. Each prosecuting agency either maintains their own list or shares the list with another prosecuting agency. For example, a city attorney may decide to use the county attorney's Brady List, or the city attorney could choose to maintain their own list. There is no universal Brady List. You could be on one Brady List for one prosecutor, but not on another. The Brady List, or Officer Integrity Database, is a disclosure list. It's a way for a prosecutor to keep track of potential witnesses, like police officers, who, if called to testify, would have background materials that the prosecutor would disclose to the defense. This brings us to the concept of an integrity database. A database is simply a collection of information stored for easy retrieval. Prosecutors' offices deal with hundreds or thousands of potential witnesses, so keeping track of the witnesses requiring disclosure helps them meet their constitutional requirements in an efficient way. Some officers ask us if being on the Brady list means that they are unable to testify. The answer? No. Police officers can testify in criminal cases, whether or not the prosecutor must disclose information to the defense attorney about the officer's history. We're also asked about whether an officer is subject to discipline by his or her department because of a placement on the Brady list. Again, the answer is no. State law requires that department discipline be based upon just cause, and placement on the Brady list alone should not be enough to be disciplined without receiving the due process guaranteed by law. Finally, we're often asked if the Brady list is secret. This answer is a little more complicated. Prosecutors do not need to release the entire contents of their databases to the public or to the media, as it's considered attorney work product. But generally speaking, an officer placed on a Brady list and defense attorneys, in cases where the officer may testify, receive notice that the officer is in the database. If you find out that you're on the Brady list, don't panic. Generally speaking, the circumstances behind why you are listed are far more important than the mere fact that a prosecutor decided to disclose information about you to criminal defendants. This probably comes as no surprise, but we highly recommend that you contact your union and a lawyer if you're placed on the Brady list. Together, we will work to evaluate the many factors involved in your case, and we will plan for the future. If you're an ASCOPS member, this consultation is covered under your legal plan. When you do contact us, we will make sure that the information that the prosecutor used to decide to place you on a Brady list is factually accurate. If it's not, we will take the appropriate steps to correct the record. It's important to remember that you need to plan for your future. Addressing Brady list issues and questions early and efficiently will help you plan out the rest of your career and address any questions that members of your department may have. So here's the recap. We covered what the Brady list is. It's how prosecutors comply with the Constitution's due process requirements by disclosing information related to integrity, bias, and criminal behavior for potential witnesses in criminal cases. We also covered what the Brady list is not. It's not a disqualification from testifying, and it's not an independent reason for department discipline. We talked about what to do if you find out that you are on, or being considered for placement on, the Brady list. Don't panic. Consult a lawyer. Make sure the information being disclosed is factually accurate, and plan for the future. And the most important takeaway is this: ask for help. There are resources available through organizations like ASCOPS that can help you navigate through this process, as well as any other significant issues that you might face as a police officer. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the button below to subscribe for more law enforcement lessons. I'm Steve Cervallo.
Right.
Stay safe out there.
My royal family. When I got that, I was like, wow. And it's on right there on YouTube. And this lawyer makes a point of keeping dirty cops informed on how to get around bullshit that they have created. And it doesn't matter, like I said before, that the prosecutors have the list, because we already know the prosecutors are allowed to withhold evidence. So when I pulled up this BradyCops.org and seeing how they purposely been fucking with it, and it half works and shit, so if you click on something, you ain't gonna really get something. And doing my research, there are websites out there throughout the United States, and it's a puzzle that's not put together what I would ask the royal family is, if you find anything, pass it along, and so I can put it, add it to my channel, because I'm going to make sure I pin this up here. But I purposely put this up here to show you how they go out of their way to protect these pigs. Because it's like, what's the purpose of having this site, and it really don't do much of anything? You know, you'll get a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and that's all done on purpose. And it would be like along the line, like, say a police officer got arrested and we can't find a mugshot. So the media is just as complicit in making sure they help them. But the more exposure, the better. The better. You would think that this would be all on there, and it's like, damn. So 9 times out of 10, you're gonna run into these type of websites, so don't get frustrated. And even Fuckbook even have the nerves. Let's see what they got up here. Look at that. You click on that, and they even got convenient amnesia and don't know what the hell to do. Even though I do know that Fuckbook do have a page that show dirty cops. They do have that, but they just complicit as well. So they always find a way. You know, that's what criminals do. They find a way around shit. But it's still our duty and responsibility to put the puzzle together. And everything just fell right in my lap. I said, wow, if it ain't one thing, it's another. Okay, yeah, we got this little list, and I ain't gonna front. Like I said, I know somebody out there may know, and it's like, damn, this been around before I was born. It's the first time I heard this, because I heard them mention this. And that pastor that's representing that family, the spokesman for that family, mentioned that list. And then when they had the town hall meeting, they mentioned that list again. And I will be showing parts of the town hall meeting that they had in Arizona. But like I said, I hit that wall and I needed to get my rest. And I'm going to listen to my husband first and foremost, and to the royal family. I am going to do that, definitely, because I ain't no good to nobody pushing myself like that. And I will take heed to that. You know, I'm dishing it out. I can take it. I can take constructive criticism, or just direct, like, you know, True Roy, you need to get your ass up off of here and go get some rest and stuff. But this is quite necessary. And one more thing, please go over to Taryn Rain's channel, because he's talking about I think it was 72 police that had to be sat down for being crazy. And you know, they've been talking about police reform for a long time. And something that I have noticed is that police are actually ousting themselves. Have y'all noticed that? All the shit that they doing, and it is wonderful to have social media, because this is our duty and responsibility, you know. And you notice, like, when I did the first video, there was a white guy out there, and that was his duty and responsibility, because his own out there getting their ass whooped. I have no problem like that. I have no problem with it. And then you had this lawyer who represents bad cops. That's their duty and responsibility. And so we are entitled to the same thing. That's why I do what I do. I have a duty and responsibility. I do. And I have gifts. We all have gifts. And we must share our gifts. And it is my responsibility, when I do my research, to share this with the royal family. And it's your responsibility to share whatever you share, and share this video. Share this video. And I'm not hung up on, oh, you just found out about this? Where you been? I don't give a damn about that. Because one thing that I have learned, doing research, they literally will hide things in plain sight. It's been around before since I was born. It's the first I heard of it. So, the Brady list. And remember, the Brady list have other names. So whatever you find out there, please share it. And I'll do more videos on it. Oh, yes. I will do more videos on it. Email me. Do whatever you got to do. Let's get this information out. The more exposure, the better. So, my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.